The Battlefield 2042 open beta is a technical mess, with bugs ranging from basic functions like not being able to open the map to people flying around in midair in invisible vehicles. But there's also a lot of this. This Battlefield has provided in a single day of a beta more of these incredible cinematic action gameplay moments than any other Battlefield that I've ever played before, and I've been playing Battlefield games since Battlefield 1942, which by the way is the best Battlefield, but that's a topic for a different video. So it surprises me to see the beta getting such negative reaction from a lot of people, especially people that I consider to have similar opinions to myself, such as Terry Dactyl, who's a friend of mine. We play Hella Loose together, and he made a video called Battlefield 2042 is a disaster. If you haven't watched that video, I will link to it down in the video description. But what I want to do is go over the major points that he brings in that video and talk about why I do or don't agree with them, and why, even though I do agree that this game is broken as hell and needs a lot of work, I still think this beta shows that Battlefield 2042 has the potential to be absolutely mind-blowing. So let's start by talking about the bugs. There are many of them, from the zipline kind of disappearing from your hands as you're ziplining through the air, to tanks and helicopters not doing any sound at all, even though they happen to be really close, at least close enough that you think you should be able to hear them. So I'm not sure if that's a bug or intentional, but it's kind of hard to separate the two at this point, to just random early access game kind of things, like the second position, the turret position on the tanks, and APCs move very sharply and sporadically from left to right for no apparent reason. To put it quite simply, the state of the game is not very good. It is very rough around the edges, and the sheer fact that they published a beta where the M key to open the map does not work is disconcerting, to say the least. However, if you put that aside, and that's a lot of putting aside that you need to do, to be fair, but if you put that aside, the gameplay is phenomenal. This is Battlefield 4 on steroids, and I do mean that. If you've played Battlefield 4 recently, which I have, this feels exactly the same. It just feels a bit better. They've taken the core gameplay feeling of Battlefield 4 and just injected it with a bit extra movement options with stuff like the zipline and some quality of life improvements, like being able to summon a tank or a jeep right where you are to help you get around the map so you don't have to end up running around everywhere. So in a way, this does feel like an 8-year-old game, because it does take a lot of elements from Battlefield 4, and it is not taking the way the movement feels from Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, which was a weightier movement with more of a realistic feel to it, if you will. However, if you loved Battlefield 4, you'll recognize this in Battlefield 2042, and you'll realize what an incredibly good mix of movement, gunplay, and overall action they've designed into the game. So let's talk about gunplay, because Terry mentions in his video that he thinks the TTK is too high, and I completely disagree, and here's why. It seems like Battlefield 2042 is aiming for these big open maps with huge areas, and in such open spaces, having a short TTK, especially at range, would be detrimental to the gaming experience, because there's so much going on, so many sources of possible damage that you can take, that being able to kill someone with an assault rifle from like 200 meters away with 2 or 3 shots, it would just make the game a lot slower than it is. You need to be able to run around and take a few hits, because otherwise the mobility wouldn't be a thing, and that would kind of break the game that they're trying to make. Now, if you watch Terry's video, you will notice that he's not zipping around like I am in my videos. He's taking a more slow-paced approach. He's using the syringe and the armor plates, which I absolutely didn't like using in the beta, because I don't think they are a fit for this map. I think those will probably come in handy in maps with much smaller, more urban and constrained fighting areas than in something as open as the map that we have in the open beta. However, once you switch to close range encounters or even medium range encounters, I don't think the TTK is high at all, and you can totally see that. You can bring down people in like 3-4 shots with really fast firing weapons, so it's not really a slow TTK, I think, at all. I find it really satisfying, And I think the balance between the damage drop-off at range, which Terry says is too high, I think that's absolutely fine, because you should not be engaging an enemy that's 250 meters away from you with an assault rifle, because that would just make it impossible to move anywhere in the map without getting shot and dying constantly, like something like Hell Let Loose. If you haven't played Hell Let Loose, that is the game that Terry and I mainline. That's our main game, and it is a milsim light shooter, World War II shooter, which is very unforgiving. You can shoot someone dead with one bullet from like 250 meters. So that is not the type of game that this is. This is an arcade game which features a whole lot of mobility, where the fun comes from being able to Rambo things for like a minute or two without dying to just some random dude spraying you from 150 meters away. So I think the concern about the TTK being too high comes from a position of maybe wanting this game to be something different in terms of gameplay, but the gameplay that this has, that Battlefield 2042 is showing us in this open beta, jives perfectly with the TTK as it is currently. You can kill people really fast if you're close. If you're mid-range, you can drop like 2-3 guys with one clip, absolutely no problem. So it's not an issue there. It is an issue when you're trying to take a slower paced approach and you're carefully lining up your shots and find that, you know, by the second bullet, the guy has already moved and you end up not killing him. Another concern Terry mentions is the fact that everyone looks the same, and I completely agree. I wish the teams had a more distinct identity to them, because right now your enemies very much look the same as you, and I think that's a problem, and I agree with him 100%. I wish they would have done something to differentiate the teams a bit more. Maybe have specific colors for specific teams or something, but right now as it is, you really do have to rely on the indicators to make sure, you know, to recognize who's an enemy or who's not, and that shouldn't be the case. Other issues he mentions in the video are bullet velocity and the fact that the bots seem to have lower health than regular people, which means that you kill them faster, and that just throws your whole like measurement off of when you're actually done killing someone, which I don't know, like I haven't had the same experience as him in that regard, and I've been unable to test if that's actually the case or not. Maybe I can test that when the game actually launches. So I don't know, I just didn't have the same experience. Obviously killing the bots is going to be a whole lot easier than killing real actual players, but I don't think that's a problem in a Battlefield game, in such a large scale game. Just having some random dudes that you can easily kill, like in Titanfall 2 or something, that's not a problem, and it actually is fun. The bots essentially provide some cannon fodder, some easy multi-kills for people that might not be as good in the game, or, you know, just wanting to have some fun. Regarding the bullet velocity, I also think that has to do more with the way he approached the game than the actual game itself. Yes, the bullet velocity is not the highest, but if you're not engaging targets at a range where your weapon is ineffective, it's not a problem at all. I played this at 50 ping, 150 ping, and 200 ping, and I was able to adapt and land my shots absolutely no problem, which I've played Battlefield games before at really high pings and had a much worse experience than I did in this game. So I don't think the bullet velocity is specifically too low. I think it is okay. Could it be faster? Yes, it probably could, and it wouldn't really have a negative impact on the game, but I don't think it's a problem at all. The sheer amount of bugs, I think, are the real problem of the beta. The fact that the comma rows doesn't work at all, the map doesn't work at all, those are big issues that shouldn't be hard to fix for a team. I mean, I'm no game developer or anything, but I don't think I've ever seen a beta of anything have such basic functionality not working. So I think there's a strong case that this should be delayed to March, as the rumors say, and that they should have the time needed to polish things up and actually have a workable title by the time this releases. However, I wasn't lying at the beginning of the video when I mentioned that this beta has provided more of those quote-unquote Battlefield moments in a single day of gameplay than basically any single other Battlefield game that I have ever played. And Achieving that is no simple task. That is the combination of the gunplay, of the map design, of the vehicle design, of everything that's going on, of the player count. Everything that's going on is gelling together to create these awesome moments. And the fact that they happen so often, so frequently, speaks volumes, I think, of how greatly designed the map is and how much thought has been given into this new Conquest layout, where you have 2 mini flags per sector in some of the areas in the middle of the map, but not on the edges of the map, which makes the middle part of the map harder to fight over and therefore have more constant engagements, rather than just having the same experience from every single other Battlefield game, which is you go to a flag, you fight over it, you win, you eliminate the enemy, then you stay there capping for like 30 seconds or something with absolutely nothing going on, and then you move on to the next flag. That is not at all my experience in Battlefield 2042, because if you're fighting over one of those middle flags, there's 2 points where the enemy can attack, 2 mini flags. So you always end up fighting over one, and by the time you capture it, the other one's already starting to get capped by the enemy, so you need to go back and fight them. But that distance that you need to travel is absolutely minimal. You can engage people from one flag to the other one using the right weapons. Speaking of which, the weapon attachment system, the plus system, is just phenomenal. And I also think it explains a bit of Terry's problems with the game. You are able to switch your attachments on the fly extremely fast, and that enables the player to change the way his weapon feels and its effectiveness at different ranges on the fly. So if you're using an assault rifle and you need to engage someone at distance, you want to switch to like a heavier barrel, a heavier mag maybe, with heavier bullets to do more damage and stuff like that. And if you don't do that, you will be at a disadvantage. And that is, I think, the primary design focus of this game. It is giving you tools to be creative. Everything you have is a tool. Being able to call in tanks in a few seconds, being able to call in the dog for extra reinforcements if you're alone, being able to zipline across everything. It is all just these tools that are given at your disposal for you to find the fun with them. And if you don't engage that, which I think Terry failed to do with the gameplay that he showed in his video, where he's mostly playing infantry and not really engaging with all the craziness that the game is offering to you. Now, don't get me wrong, I think his criticism of the game is entirely valid, and I completely understand why he feels that way regarding the game. However, I'm probably gonna ask him later personally how he feels that this compares to Battlefield 4, because to me they feel very similar, and that is the best of things for a Battlefield game, I think, because Battlefield 4 was one of the best Battlefields ever made. And I honestly cannot wait for this to be released with Battlefield Portal, because opening up the whole can of worms to different maps, to World War II era Battlefield, and all of that is going to be absolutely glorious. And the amount of craziness and creativity that you can display, that you can manifest in this Battlefield, I think is just going to be absolutely unparalleled. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment sections. What do you think about Terry's criticism of the game if you have seen that video, and what do you think about my response and my take on it? I honestly do feel like this is an incredibly fun game, and it's been a long time since I felt that about a Battlefield game. If you enjoyed this video, then please think about subscribing to the channel, and as always, thank you for watching, and I hope I will catch you in the next one.